how do you see the role of diversity and inclusion playing a part in solving some of the darker problems that are going on in the technology sector?
Shall I stick to it? So the one thing that worries me is that the algorithms are increasingly in charge. Clearly, I think it's, there's an example of a doctor who went to her gym the other day and her swipe card didn't work, and it didn't work because doctor was programmed as a male occupation, not a female one. And that right there is an example of bias that's built in to technology, and we have to be concerned about who's designing the tech. Yes. And so diversity and inclusion inside the algorithm design, super important, and should probably be one of our big rules when designing. Diversity must be on the design, test, and implementation team. So I think that's super important. But AI can also be used for scaling, scaling for good as well as for bad. And I think that's also something not to be ignored. We can create algorithms that can check the ethics of algorithm design. So there is that as well. On the cyber side, it was ever thus. Follow the money. Today, though, data is also an important currency for those on the dark web and for marketing companies as well. And look, search engines will harvest your eyeball movements because your eyeball movements dictate which ads are being most effective or not. And you think when you go and buy that can of Coke the following day that that's free will, but actually you've been victim to all of the ads that have hit you because your eyeball movements have been harvested and used. And that is valuable data to some companies. So I think we live in a world that's different. I think we need to make sure that we have data transparency in everything that we do. I think that will absolutely help massively. Diversity in the design teams would be my answer to that. Cyber is about it's not an if, it's a when. So don't keep the crown jewels on the outside network would be my advice.
I firmly believe that today behind every smart algorithm is a smart man, and that's the problem we have to fix. We have to ensure that behind every smart algorithm is a smart man and hopefully a smart woman too, because
and
that brings
introvert, and a smart.
That brings in the diversity of thought. But what's important today for countries and companies is to ensure that before you start developing your tech roadmap, you put down some design principles. Yes. And I think we lose that conversation very often. We're so obsessed with technology, we jump into what it can do. So if you look at, for example, the national AI strategy that India has come up with, it clearly calls out the design principles of AI for India, what it will do and what it will not do. Right? And it sets sort of the framework. I won't use the word boundaries, but it sets the framework. And government, once the framework is set, government can come in and ensure that the policy that it's building out is to support that framework and dissuade industry from doing anything outside that framework. Incentivize work that happens within the framework, right? But I think it's extremely important to ensure that countries as well as companies start thinking early about what are the design principles of the new digital model, because the business model is going through a rethink right now.